One daughter succeeded. The other one is still searching. My father paused, let that word hang in the air of the country club ballroom. Then he pointed directly at me. 50 guests turned to look, and 50 guests laughed. The champagne flute in my hand felt suddenly heavy, cold, like holding a piece of the moment that would never warm again. I could feel the bubbles still fizzing, could hear the crystal singing slightly against my trembling fingers, could smell the roses from the centerpieces. White roses, Victoria's favorite. Everything was always Victoria's favorite. The chandelier light seemed too bright, the carpet too soft under my feet, like the world was tilting, like gravity had shifted just for me. I forced myself to smile. That's what you do. That's what I've always done. Smile when they laugh. Smile when they point. Smile when they reduce you to a punchline. My sister Victoria stood at the head table, her engagement ring catching the chandelier light. 2 carats. Princess cut. Rose gold band. I'd heard her describe it at least 20 times. Her fiancé Brandon's arm around her waist. Possessive. Proprietary. Like she was already his. Her smile frozen in that particular way. The way that said she'd known what Dad was going to say. Had probably helped write it. Had probably laughed when they rehearsed it. I was 31 years old. I had started 3 businesses in the past 6 years. 2 had failed. The 3rd was struggling. But I was still trying. Still searching, I suppose. If searching means refusing to give up. Victoria was 28. She'd never started anything. Never failed at anything. 'Cause she'd never tried anything that Dad hadn't pre-approved and pre-funded. She'd never known what it felt like to bet everything on yourself, to watch it crumble, to pick up the pieces. But to understand why those words hit like a physical blow, why my legs wanted to buckle, why my throat closed around a scream I couldn't release. You need to know about the 29 years before that moment. You need to know about the girl who was always too much. Too loud, too curious, too willing to ask questions that made her father uncomfortable. And you need to know about my grandmother, Grandma Rose, who was sitting 3 tables away, watching everything, recording everything in that sharp mind of hers, waiting for her moment. The way a chess master waits for exactly the right move. My father, Richard Hayes, was born into comfort, never earned a dollar he didn't inherit or marry into. His father left him a trust fund and some rental properties. Nothing spectacular, but enough that work was always optional. His wife, my mother, came from a family with old money and good connections. The Bennetts, 3 generations of textile manufacturing. A name that opened doors. A fortune that cushioned everything. Dad's job was essentially professional son-in-law. He managed some family investments. Showed up to board meetings my mother's family required, collected dividends, played golf, formed opinions about people who actually worked for a living. He had very strong opinions about the proper order of things, about what men should do, about what women should be, about which of his daughters was worth investing in. Victoria was born first, perfect and pink and quiet. 8 pounds, 3 ounces. She came out sleeping, the nurses joked. She learned early that agreeing with Dad made life easier, that laughing at his jokes opened doors, that being pretty and pleasant and pliable was its own kind of currency. She learned to disappear into the role he wanted, to become exactly what he expected. I came along 3 years later. I was none of those things. I came out screaming, the nurses said, loud and demanding, already making myself known. My first word was why. Not mama, not dada. Why? I asked it constantly. Why is the sky blue? Why do birds fly? Why does Dad get the big chair? Why doesn't Mom ever disagree with him? The questions made him uncomfortable. I made him uncomfortable. Something about me rubbed against him wrong from the start. By age 7, I was taking apart the toaster to see how it worked. I waited until everyone was asleep, crept downstairs in my pajamas, unplugged it first. I was 7, not stupid. I burned my fingers on the heating element, left scorch marks on the kitchen counter. Got grounded for a week, but I understood how bread became toast, how electricity became heat, how engineering became breakfast. And that felt worth it. Dad didn't see it that way. He saw a broken toaster and a disobedient daughter. He made me apologize to the toaster. Actually, apologize. Standing in the kitchen, saying sorry to an appliance, while Victoria watched from the doorway, giggling. By 10, I was selling handmade friendship bracelets at school, 50 cents each. I'd learned to make them from a library book, checked it out 7 times in a row. The librarian knew me by name. I practiced until my fingers ached, experimented with color combinations, named each design: the Rainbow Bridge, the Sunset Strip, the Ocean Wave, the Northern Lights. I kept a notebook, tracked which designs sold best, which colors moved fastest, which girls were repeat customers. I was 10 years old. Running my first business, I made $200 before the principal shut me down. He called my parents, sat them down in his office, me in the corner, feet dangling off the too tall chair. Entrepreneurship is wonderful, he told my parents. But perhaps not in the cafeteria. He was trying to be kind. I could tell. Dad was mortified. Not proud, mortified. His face went red. That particular shade of red I'd learned to recognize. The shade that meant I'd embarrassed him again. He drove home in silence that night. I sat in the back seat, watching the streetlights pass, counting them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Trying to figure out what I'd done wrong. Trying to understand why making money was bad. Why being clever was shameful. When we got home, he poured himself a scotch, sat in his leather chair, the one no one else was allowed to use. The throne, Victoria called it, behind his back, of course, and finally spoke. That's not how a Hayes behaves, he told me. We don't hustle like common salespeople. I was 10 years old. I didn't know what hustle meant, but I understood the tone, the disappointment, the disgust. I didn't know then that I wasn't technically a Hayes, at least not by his bloodline, but I'm getting ahead of myself. The pattern was set early. Victoria got a car at 16, a niece one, a silver BMW convertible, used, but still. It gleamed in the driveway like a promise. I remember the day he gave it to her. The bow on the hood. Red? Shiny. Absurd. Victoria screaming and jumping up and down. Mom clapping. Dad beaming. Graduation gift, Dad said. Even though she hadn't graduated yet. Wouldn't for another 2 years. She's earned it, Dad said at dinner that night. All those A's. All that effort. Victoria's A's came from tutors Dad paid for. From study groups at friends' houses. From a natural ability to charm teachers into extensions. From never being challenged, never being pushed, never having to actually struggle. I got a lecture about how cars were earned, not given. And then a 15-year-old sedan, the one Mom's friend was selling because it kept stalling, because the transmission was failing, because it was basically a metal box waiting to die. That one's still running, Dad said. Tossed me the keys like an afterthought. Like he was doing me a favor. Like I should be grateful. It wasn't. Running, not really. It stalled at red lights. Made grinding noises when I shifted. Smelled like burning oil every time I went uphill. The transmission died 3 months later. On the highway? Rush hour. The car just stopped. No warning. No gradual slowdown. Just stopped. I was stranded on the shoulder for 4 hours, watching cars fly past, feeling the draft of each one, smelling the exhaust, trying not to cry. Dad didn't answer his phone. I called 5 times, straight to voicemail. Every time Victoria was at a party, she answered, laughed, said she couldn't help, sorry. I could hear music in the background. People laughing, ice clinking in glasses. Mom was at her book club. She picked up on the 4th ring. Sounded distracted. Said she'd send someone. Forgot. Didn't send anyone. I walked 2 miles to a gas station and called a tow truck myself. Paid for it with my bracelet money. The $200 I'd kept hidden under my mattress. The money Dad told me to return. The money I'd told him I returned. The money that saved me. When I got home that night, nobody asked what happened. Nobody asked if I was okay. Dad was watching golf. Mom was on the phone. Victoria was still at her party. I went to my room, sat on my bed, looked at my empty hands, the hands that had gripped the steering wheel, the hands that had walked 2 miles, the hands that had handled it. I realized something that night. Nobody was coming to save me. I was going to have to save myself. Victoria's college was paid for. A small liberal arts school in New England. Beautiful campus, red brick buildings, ivy on everything. Good for meeting the right people, Dad said. She majored in art history because it was easy, because it was expected, because thinking too hard might cause wrinkles, she joked. We all laughed. Dad laughed loudest. She spent more time at gallery openings than in class, more time at parties than studying, more time on her wardrobe than her thesis. Graduated with a 2. La Panjipa. Never used the degree. Never needed to. I wanted to study business. I'd been reading books. Michael Porter, Ita Drucker, Clayton Christensen. Names Dad had never heard of. Concepts he couldn't pronounce. I came to him with a plan. A spreadsheet. I was 17. I'd calculated the ROI of a business degree. The average starting salaries, the career trajectories. I thought numbers would convince him. Dad laughed. Actually laughed. The kind of laugh that dies slowly. That leaves silence in its wake. That echoes in your head for years. Women don't need business degrees, sweetheart. He said it like he was being kind. Like he was protecting me from something. Like he knew a secret about the world I didn't. That's what husbands are for. Mom was in the kitchen. I heard her stop chopping. The knife went quiet against the cutting board. The carrots half finished. But she didn't say anything. She never said anything. Not when it mattered. I took out loans. Student loans, private loans. Everything I could get my hands on. I worked 3 jobs to put myself through state school. Morning shift at a coffee shop. 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. The smell of espresso still makes me think of exhaustion. Of dark windows. Of walking to work before the sun came up. Classes from 9 to 3. I sat in the front row. Asked questions. Annoyed my professors. Annoyed my classmates. Didn't care. Evening shift at a restaurant. 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. Carrying plates. Forcing smiles. Ignoring the customers who looked at me like I was invisible. Like I was just hands in a uniform. Weekends at a retail store. Folding clothes that would get unfolded. Answering questions I'd answered 1,000 times. Pretending every customer was interesting. Homework between customers. Sleep in the margins. Coffee as a food group. Energy drinks as a necessity. I graduated with honors. In business. With a minor in operations management. San Sambalanjipa. Dean's List. Every semester. I sent Dad an invitation to the ceremony. Printed on cream cardstock. Naomi Rose Hayes. Bachelor of Science in Business Administration. Magna cum laude. I addressed it by hand. Used my best handwriting. Mailed it certified. Wanted to make sure he got it. He sent back a card. Store-bought. Generic. Sorry, sweetheart. Golf tournament that weekend. Couldn't be helped. We're proud of you. We're proud of you, but not proud enough to show up. Not proud enough to reschedule golf. Not proud enough to see what I'd built. Victoria's graduation. He rented a party bus, flew the whole family out, including Grandma Rose. Booked a suite at a hotel downtown. Threw a dinner party for 40 people. Ordered custom invitations. Hired a photographer. I remember watching him toast Victoria that night. The clink of glasses. The smell of expensive wine. The soft lighting that made everyone look like a painting. To my brilliant daughter. The future of this family. Grandma Rose caught my eye across the room. Held my gaze for a long moment. She was 79 then, sharp as a needle, quiet as a shadow. She didn't say anything. She rarely did at these events. Just watched, just listened, just remembered. But her hand found mine under the table. Squeezed once, hard, almost painful. I thought it was just comfort, just a grandmother's way of saying she saw me. I didn't know she was already planning, already keeping records, already waiting for the moment to strike. After college, Victoria moved into an apartment Dad bought her. A condo, really. 2 bedrooms, view of the park, doorman building, marble countertops, stainless steel appliances, everything she'd ever wanted. Dad paid the mortgage until she was on her feet. She was never on her feet. She was never off his wallet. The mortgage turned into a gift. The gift turned into her birthright. She took a job at a gallery, part-time, mostly just showed up for the wine and cheese events. Wore nice dresses, said interesting things about art she barely understood. Met Brandon there. His family owned the building where the gallery was located. Brandon, perfectly adequate Brandon, with his perfect teeth, and his perfect family, and his perfect disinterest in anything that didn't benefit him. Meanwhile, I was starting my first business, a mobile pet grooming service. I'd seen a gap in the market, busy pet owners who couldn't make it to traditional groomers. Demand for convenience, willingness to pay a premium. I had a van, a dream, and $7,000 I'd saved. Every penny earned, every dollar counted. 3 years of saving, 3 years of planning, 3 years of imagining this moment. No help from Dad, of course. He'd made that clear. "You want to wash dogs?" he said when I told him. His voice was careful, controlled. The voice he used when he was about to be cruel. "This is what a business degree gets us," I explained the model. The margins, the market gap, the demand in the suburbs, the competitive analysis I'd done, the customer personas I'd developed, the financial projections I'd built. He didn't listen, just kept looking at his golf magazine, flipping pages, making it clear I was interrupting, making it clear I wasn't worth his attention. "Good luck with that," he said when I finished. Didn't look up, didn't offer advice, didn't offer support, just good luck. Like I was a stranger on the street. The business failed after 18 months. Not because the concept was bad. The numbers actually worked. The market was real. The demand was there. I had 40 regular clients by month 6, 80 by month 12. Word of mouth was spreading. Reviews were glowing. People loved me. Their dogs loved me. But the van broke down, then broke down again, then caught fire on the highway. Actually caught fire. Flames and smoke and me standing on the shoulder, watching my dream burn. I couldn't afford the repairs and the insurance and the licensing fees. I ran out of cash before I ran out of customers. The business was profitable in theory, dead in practice. Because I didn't have the cushion, didn't have the safety net, didn't have a father who would help. Dad brought it up at Thanksgiving that year, in front of everyone. 22 people at the table, turkey steaming in the center, cranberry sauce glistening, everyone happy, everyone grateful, except me. I was trying to be invisible, trying to blend into the wallpaper, hoping he wouldn't notice me, hoping I could get through one holiday without being the target. Heard your little dog washing thing didn't work out. He was carving the turkey, didn't even look up. The knife sliced through the meat. Precise. Practiced. Like he'd been doing it his whole life. Maybe try something more. Feminine next time. 22 people. All silent. All waiting to see what I'd do. All grateful it wasn't them. I looked at my plate. Counted the green beans. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Didn't say anything. Couldn't say anything. My throat was closed. My eyes were burning. Grandma Rose was there. She always was. Sitting at the far end of the table, quiet, observant, taking everything in, and for the first time she spoke up. Richard, her voice was quiet, but everyone stopped. Forks froze. Conversations died. Even the clinking of ice stopped. Grandma Rose rarely spoke at family gatherings. When she did, people listened. Failure is the tuition of success. She's paying her dues. What dues have you ever paid? The table went silent. Dad's face went red, then purple. His jaw worked like he was chewing words he couldn't quite swallow. The carving knife trembled slightly in his hand. For a moment, I thought he might throw it. With all due respect, Rose, he finally managed. His voice was tight, controlled, barely. This is my family, my house, my rules. Grandma Rose smiled. That small, knowing smile I'd seen 1,000 times. The smile that said she knew something he didn't. Of course, dear. Your rules. She went back to her green beans. But she winked at me. Quick! So quick I almost missed it. A flash of conspiracy. A moment of alliance. I didn't understand then. Idonau. My second business was a subscription box service. Curated office supplies for small businesses. Pens, notebooks, sticky notes, desk organizers. Each box themed around productivity. Beautiful packaging. Personal touches. A monthly delivery of organization. The idea was solid. I'd done the research, talked to potential customers, built prototypes, tested the concept, refined the offering. I had 300 subscribers within 6 months, growing steadily, word spreading, people excited. Finally, I thought, finally something that's working. But I needed capital to scale, to buy inventory in bulk, to hire help, to market properly, to compete. I asked Dad for a loan, $20,000. Not a gift. A loan with interest, with terms, with a repayment schedule. I had projections, a business plan, customer testimonials. I'd never asked him for anything. This was the first time. I practiced my pitch for a week, in front of mirrors, to my friends, to my cat. He listened to my pitch in his study, scotch in hand, golf on the TV behind him, the sound of polite applause drifting in from the screen. He barely looked at my slides, barely glanced at my numbers, just sat there, drinking, waiting for me to finish. When I finished, he took a long sip, set down the glass. The ice clinked. The silence stretched. No, one word, no explanation. No discussion, no consideration. Can I ask why? Because you'll fail. You always do. And I'm not going to subsidize your failures. Dad, the numbers don't matter when you don't have the instinct. Victoria has instinct. You have stubbornness. They're not the same thing. Victoria has never built anything. She doesn't need to. She's smart enough to align herself with people who have. He looked at me. Really looked. For the first time in the conversation, you could learn from her. I walked out of his study that night. Didn't say goodbye. Didn't cry until I was in my car. Sat in the driveway for 20 minutes. Headlights off. Engine running. Mascara running faster. Wondering if he was right. Wondering if I was just stubborn. Wondering if I should give up. The business died 6 weeks later. I couldn't scale fast enough. Couldn't compete with the big players who moved into the space. Couldn't find investors willing to bet on a woman with one failure. Now I had two. A bigger company launched a similar product. Better funded, better marketed, better connected. They swallowed the market I'd created. Crushed me without even noticing. Dad never mentioned it. Didn't have to. His silence said everything. The way he looked at me at family dinners. The way he looked through me. The way he talked to Victoria like she was the only daughter he had. Victoria got engaged to Brandon a year later. The proposal was exactly what you'd expect. Rooftop restaurant. Sunset. Champagne. A ring that cost more than my apartment. 2 carats. Princess cut. Rose gold band. She called me the next morning, not to share the moment, not to celebrate, to announce, to inform, to make sure I knew my place. The engagement party was planned within a month. Country club ballroom, 50 guests, open bar, string quartet. The kind of event that required a coordinator. The kind of event that had a budget larger than my annual income. I wasn't involved in the planning, wasn't asked to be. Victoria called to tell me the date. You'll be there, right? Not will you help plan or I want you involved. Just, you'll be there. Statement, not question. Of course, I said. Great. Try to wear something nice. Not your usual startup founder thing. You know, those sad button-downs and clearance slacks. Brandon's family will be there. First impressions matter. My usual startup founder thing was the only thing I could afford. Button-down shirts from Target. Slacks from the clearance rack. Shoes I'd resold twice. Practical, professional, apparently pathetic. I didn't say that. I never said that. Never defended myself. Never pushed back. I said, of course, and hung up. Started looking for something nice at the thrift store. Something that wouldn't embarrass the family. Something that would let me disappear. That's when Grandma Rose called. First time in months, Naomi dear. Her voice was thin, 82 years thin, but still sharp, still precise, still entirely her. I need you to come see me. Before the party, there's something we need to discuss. I drove to her house that Saturday. The house she'd lived in for 50 years, the same house she'd started her business in. Back when it was just her and a sewing machine, back when nobody believed a woman could run a company, back when the world told her no. And she said yes anyway. Before she turned that sewing machine into a textile company, before that textile company became a manufacturing empire, before that empire grew to $47 million, before she became one of the most successful women in the state, while raising 3 children, while burying a husband, while the world kept telling her to stop, no one in my family talked about Grandma Rose's money. It was impolite. It was awkward. It was inconvenient. Besides, everyone assumed it would go to the family foundation, or to charity, or be divided equally. The way these things usually work, Grandma Rose had always been private about her finances. Even Mom didn't know the details. Just knew there was money. Knew it was substantial. Knew it was none of her business. Mom had died 3 years ago. Cancer. Quick and brutal. Diagnosis to funeral in 4 months. She went from fine to gone in a season. She'd been the buffer between me and Dad. The one who'd sneak me a check now and then. The one who'd tell Dad to ease up. The one who'd look at me with something like apology. Like she knew it was wrong. Like she wished she was brave enough to fix it. Without her, there was nothing soft between us anymore. Just sharp edges and old wounds. Just silence and distance. Just the knowledge that I was alone. Grandma Rose was Mom's mother. The only grandparent I had left. The only one who'd ever really seen me. Really understood me. Really believed in me. I pulled into her driveway, noticed a car I didn't recognize, a sedan with a parking permit from a law firm downtown. Chen and Associates. That seemed odd. Inside, Grandma Rose was waiting. Tea service on the table. The good china, the set she only used for special occasions. Cookies from the bakery she liked, the ones with the raspberry filling. My favorites, I realized. She remembered. And a woman in a gray suit. Briefcase open? Documents spread across the coffee table. Looking serious. Looking prepared. Looking like something important was happening. Naomi, Grandma Rose patted the seat beside her. This is Patricia Chen, my attorney. Sit down, dear. We have a lot to discuss. I sat. Patricia Chen nodded at me. Professional, neutral, revealing nothing. Grandma Rose poured me tea. Her hands shook a little. They'd been shaking for years. Parkinson's, the doctor said. Early stage, manageable. But her eyes were steady. Her mind was clear. Sharper than most people half her age. I've been watching, Naomi, for a long time, watching how your father treats you. Watching how this family treats you. Watching you fall down and get back up again and again. Grandma, don't interrupt, dear. We have limited time and I need to say this. All of it. She set down the teapot, reached across the table, took my hands in hers. Her skin was paper thin. I could see the veins underneath, blue and fragile, but her grip was strong. Your mother knew. Before she died, she knew what she'd married. She told me once that staying was her biggest regret, that she should have taken you and left. Before you learned to believe his voice instead of your own. My throat tightened. She never told me that. She wouldn't. She was ashamed and scared and sick by then and didn't know how to undo 30 years of silence. But she made me promise. Promise to look after you. Promise that you would never be overlooked again. Grandma Rose squeezed my hands. I've been planning this for 3 years, Naomi. Since your mother's funeral. Since I watched your father give the eulogy. And never once mention you. Not once, I remembered. Standing in the back of the church, watching Dad at the podium, listening to him talk about Mom, about her life, about her legacy, about her family. He talked about Victoria, about the family, about Mom's legacy. He'd looked right through me, like I was furniture, like I was a houseplant that someone had forgotten to water, like I wasn't there, like I'd never been there. What have you been planning? Patricia Chen slid a folder across the table. This is a transfer of ownership. 100% of the shares of Rose Textile Holdings transferred to you, effective immediately upon signature. I stared at the folder. Didn't touch it. Couldn't touch it. I don't understand. It's not complicated, dear. Grandma Rose smiled. That same smile from the Thanksgiving table. That same knowing look. I'm giving you my company. All of it. The buildings, the contracts, the accounts, the investments. Current valuation is $47 million. Give or take. The words didn't make sense. Couldn't make sense. $47 million. More money than I'd ever seen. More than I'd ever imagined. More than I could comprehend. Grandma, I can't. You can. You're the only one who can. Dad will. Your father has no claim. He married in. The company is mine. Always has been. And I decide where it goes. But why me? Victoria is a pleasant girl who has never worked a day in her life. She's not unkind. But she's her father's daughter in all the ways that matter. She sees value in being chosen, not in building. She would sell this company within a year. Use the money for something comfortable. Something easy. Something that required no effort. Grandma Rose leaned forward. You, Naomi. You're the one who takes apart toasters. You're the one who sells bracelets in the cafeteria. You're the one who fails and gets up anyway. You're the one who actually understands what I built. She tapped the folder. This company started with a sewing machine and a dream. Just like your pet grooming van. Just like your subscription boxes. The difference is, I had 50 years to figure it out. You've only had 6? And you've already learned more than your father has in a lifetime. I was crying now. Couldn't help it. Couldn't stop it. The tears came hot and fast. 3 years of grief. 29 years of dismissal. A lifetime of being told I wasn't enough. All coming out at once. There's one more thing. Grandma Rose nodded at Patricia. Patricia pulled out another folder. Thicker. Hola. The edges worn from handling. Decades of documentation. This is documentation spanning 23 years. Every birthday your father forgot. Every achievement he ignored. Every loan he gave Victoria. Every loan he refused you. Bank statements. Photos. Recordings. Recordings. Your grandmother has been thorough. Patricia's voice was carefully neutral. Professionally neutral. She started keeping records when you were 8 years old. After your father told you that girls don't need to learn math, I remember that. I remembered exactly. 3rd grade. I'd brought home a perfect score on my math test. 100%. Every answer correct. I was so proud. Dad had said math was for boys. Girls should focus on reading and writing. Something about how numbers were cold. Something about how women were emotional. I'd cried myself to sleep that night. And every night for a week. So did she. Patricia closed the folder. This documentation isn't legally necessary for the transfer, but your grandmother wanted it compiled, in case anyone questions her judgment. In case your father makes a scene, Grandma Rose translated. Which he will. He always does. He can't help himself. I wiped my eyes. When do you want to tell him? Grandma Rose smiled. That smile I was starting to understand. The smile of someone who had been waiting, planning, preparing for exactly the right moment. The smile of a woman who had spent decades watching and was finally ready to act. At the party, dear. In front of everyone. In front of the 50 people who watched him diminish you for years. In front of Victoria and her fiancé. In front of the country club crowd who think he's such a success. She squeezed my hands one more time. He wants to give a toast? Let him. Let him say whatever he wants, and then I'll give mine. The engagement party was on a Saturday. Perfect weather. Golden light through the ballroom windows. White roses everywhere. The kind of event that costs more than my annual rent. The kind of event that requires insurance. I wore a dress I'd found at a consignment shop. Navy blue. Simple. Classic. The kind of thing that doesn't call attention. The kind of thing that lets you disappear. The kind of thing that says, I know my place. I didn't want to disappear anymore. But I'd promised Grandma Rose, wait for his toast. Let him say whatever he wants. Then she would speak. Victoria floated through the room. All smiles and champagne. Brandon at her side. His family was there. Old money. Older than ours. They looked at us the way people look at useful connections. Evaluating. Calculating. Deciding. Dad worked the room like a politician. Handshakes. Backslaps. Jokes I'd heard 1,000 times. He stopped by my table once. Glanced at my dress. Nice of you to dress up for once. Then he was gone. Already moving to the next person. The next audience. The next opportunity to perform. Grandma Rose sat at the table beside mine. Her purse in her lap. The envelope inside. I could see the corner of it poking out. White paper against black leather. She caught me looking. Winked. Patient. Ready. 8 o'clock. Toast time. Dad took the microphone. Tapped it twice. The room went quiet. Friends, family, honored guests. He beamed. Practiced. Perfect. The smile he'd rehearsed in mirrors. We're here tonight to celebrate my daughter, Victoria. My beautiful, brilliant, successful daughter. And her wonderful fiancé, Brandon. Applause. Victoria glowed. Brandon looked appropriately humble. His family nodded approvingly. The transaction was proceeding as planned. Victoria has always made this family proud. From her first steps to her first gallery showing. She's everything a father could hope for. Smart, graceful, and now about to join one of the finest families I know. He raised his glass toward Brandon's parents. They raised theirs back. A silent treaty, an alliance forming. I always knew Victoria would end up somewhere great. She has that instinct, that sense for what matters. For who matters? His eyes found mine. Just for a moment, just long enough, that familiar look of dismissal, that familiar curl of contempt. One daughter succeeded. The other one is still searching. He pointed at me, smiled, like it was a joke, like everyone was supposed to laugh, like I was the punchline. And they did. 50 people laughing. Some nervously, some genuinely amused, some just going along. None of them defending me, none of them questioning it, all of them accepting that this was fine. The champagne in my hand was cold. My face was hot. My chest was tight, but I didn't cry. I wouldn't give him that. Victoria wasn't laughing, but she wasn't defending me either. She was looking at Brandon, making sure he was laughing. He was, his whole body shaking with it. Like I was the funniest thing he'd ever seen. Like my failures were entertainment. I set down my glass, folded my hands in my lap, waited. The laughter died down. Dad was still smiling, still basking, still believing he'd won. To Victoria and Brandon, may your marriage be as successful as your love. Glasses raised. Cheers. Sips. The microphone was about to go back to the DJ. Wait, Grandma Rose's voice. Thin but clear, cutting through the chatter like a blade. Everyone turned. She stood slowly. 82 years of slow, using the table for support, but her spine was straight. Her eyes were bright. Her purpose was clear. I'd like to say a few words. If the family doesn't mind, Dad's smile flickered. Just for a moment. Of course, Rose. Please. He handed her the microphone. Gracious. Patient. Like he was humoring an old woman. Like this was a minor inconvenience. Grandma Rose took it. Took her time. Let the silence build. Let the room grow still. Let everyone lean forward. I've been coming to these things for 40 years. Weddings, graduations, engagement party. I've watched this family celebrate. I've watched this family mourn. I've watched this family choose sides. She looked around the room, taking in every face, making eye contact with each table, making everyone feel seen, making everyone feel accountable. Tonight, Richard said something interesting. He said, one daughter succeeded, and one is still searching. Her eyes found mine. Helt. I want to tell you about the searching one, the one you just laughed at. The room went still. The ice in glasses stopped clinking. The rustling of napkins stopped. Even the air seemed to hold its breath. When Naomi was 8, she took apart her grandfather's watch. Not to break it. To understand it, she put it back together. It worked better than before. She paused. Let that sink in. When she was 10, she started a business. 10 years old, selling handmade bracelets. Made $200 before the school shut her down. Richard was mortified. Dad shifted in his seat. His smile was gone. Completely gone. When she was 16, she asked for a car. Richard gave Victoria a new one. He gave Naomi a lecture about earning things. Then he gave her a car that barely ran. Murmurs now. Uncomfortable shifting. People glancing at Dad. People glancing at me. People recalculating. When she wanted to study business, Richard laughed. Said women don't need business degrees. She put herself through school anyway. 3 jobs. Graduated with honors. While Richard played golf, Grandma Rose reached into her purse, pulled out the envelope. The room went completely silent. Richard didn't attend her graduation. Golf tournament. Couldn't be helped. She opened the envelope, pulled out the papers, held them up so everyone could see. Since then, Naomi has started 3 businesses. 2 failed. The third is struggling. She's asked her father for help once. He refused. Called her stubborn. Said she'd never succeed. Her voice hardened, sharpened, became steel. That's interesting, because I started my business with a sewing machine in a spare bedroom. I failed twice before I succeeded. I was stubborn too. She looked at Dad. Richard married into this family 40 years ago. He's never built anything, never failed at anything, because he's never tried anything. He's never risked anything. He's never bet on himself the way Naomi bets on herself every day. Dad's face was red, the vein in his forehead pulsing. Rose, this isn't... I'm not finished. The room went silent. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. 3 years ago, at my daughter's funeral, your wife, Richard, you gave a beautiful eulogy, talked about her life, her legacy, her family. You mentioned Victoria 6 times. You didn't mention Naomi once. She let that hang. Let it sink in. Let every person in the room do the math. Let every person in the room feel the weight of it. I made a decision that day. About my company. About the $47 million I built from nothing. About who deserves to inherit what I spent my life creating. She crossed the room. Slow. Deliberate. Every eye following. Every breath held. She stopped in front of me. Held out the papers. These are the transfer documents. 100% of Rose Textile Holdings. Effective immediately. Everything I have, everything I built, it's yours, Naomi. I couldn't breathe, couldn't move, couldn't do anything but stare at the papers in her hands. The searching one. Grandma Rose's voice was thick now. Emotional, full of decades of watching. Full of years of waiting. She's the one who inherits my company. She's the one who understands what it means to build something. She's the one who gets back up. She pressed the papers into my hands. Take them, dear. You've earned this. Every failure, every humiliation, every time he told you that you weren't enough, you were always enough. You just needed someone to see it. I took the papers, hands shaking, tears streaming, but smiling. Finally smiling. Grandma Rose turned back to the room, to the 50 guests. To Dad, to Victoria. I have documentation of 23 years of discrimination. Every slight, every favor denied, every loan refused, everything Richard did to make one daughter feel like nothing. Patricia Chen has copies. So do 3 other attorneys. And a journalist I trust. She looked at Dad. If anyone challenges this transfer, if anyone questions my judgment, that documentation becomes public. Every country club member, every business associate, every golf buddy, they'll all know exactly what kind of father Richard Hayes really is. Dad's mouth opened, closed, opened again, like a fish gasping for air, like a man drowning on dry land. This is insane, he finally managed, his voice cracking. Rose, you're clearly not well. This isn't, you can't just, I can. I did. It's done. She turned to Victoria, who was frozen, champagne en, face white, engagement ring catching the light, everything she'd been promised suddenly uncertain. I'm sorry, dear. I love you, but you've never needed anything. And you've never built anything. Naomi needs this, and she deserves it. Because she's the one who actually tried. Victoria's glass shook. Grandma, I don't understand. I know you don't. That's the problem. Grandma Rose turned back to me, cupped my face in her hands. Those shaking hands. So gentle, so full of love. Your mother would be so proud. She always saw you, even when no one else did. She kissed my forehead. Now stop crying, dear. You have a company to run. The party didn't recover. Couldn't recover. The champagne went flat. The roses wilted under the heat of the scandal. The string quartet packed up early. People didn't know where to look, what to say. Whether to congratulate me or console Victoria. Whether to acknowledge what had just happened or pretend it hadn't. Most just left early, murmured excuses. Prior commitments. Early mornings. Dad cornered me in the hallway. Face purple. Voice low. Dangerous. You planned this. You manipulated her. She's sharper than you've ever been. My voice was steady. Surprising me. Surprising him. And she's been watching you for 23 years. Every time you overlooked me. Every time you chose Victoria. She wrote it down. She kept records. Records can be disputed. By all means, try. Patricia Chen will make sure every golf club in the state knows how Richard Hayes treats his daughters. Both of them. His jaw clenched. You think you can run a company? You, who's failed at everything you've touched? I've failed at small things with no resources and no support. Now I have resources. Now I have support. And I have something you never will. What's that? The ability to learn from failure. I walked away, left him standing in the hallway. Didn't look back. Didn't need to. Victoria found me in the parking lot. Mascara running. Champagne long gone. Her engagement ring glinting under the parking lot lights. Looking smaller than before. Why didn't you tell me? Her voice cracked. About Grandma. About the company. About any of it. I didn't know until a week ago. You could have warned me. Before the party. Before... She gestured vaguely. Before all that. Would it have changed anything? She didn't answer. Couldn't answer. You stood there tonight. My voice was calm. Calmer than I felt. You watched Dad humiliate me. You didn't say a word. You checked to make sure Brandon was laughing. I didn't. You did. I saw you. Victoria's face crumpled. He's our father. What was I supposed to do? Something. Anything. In 31 years, you've never once stood up for me. Not once. That's not fair, isn't it? She stared at me. The sister I'd grown up with. The sister who got everything. The sister who never asked why I got nothing. The sister who never questioned the system that benefited her. I'm sorry, she finally said. I know that's not enough, but I am. Maybe. I don't know yet. I got in my car. A 10-year-old son. The one I'd bought myself. The one that actually ran. The one I'd earned. Naomi? Victoria's voice. Small. What happens now? I looked at her engagement ring, her designer dress, her perfect life, her uncertain future. Now I run a company. And you get married. And maybe someday we figure out how to be sisters again. Do you think we can? I started the engine. I don't know, but I'm willing to try. I've always been willing to try. The weeks after the party were chaos. Good chaos. The kind that comes with inheriting $47 million and a company with 200 employees and responsibilities I'd never imagined. The first morning, I couldn't get out of bed. Just lay there staring at the ceiling, thinking about what had just happened, about what was about to happen, about who I was now. My phone kept buzzing. Texts from people who hadn't texted me in years. Congratulations. Vauv. Can we talk? Suddenly, everyone wanted to reconnect. Suddenly, everyone remembered I existed. I ignored most of them. Learned pretty quickly who was genuine. Who just wanted something. Who had always been there. The documents sat on my kitchen table for 3 days. I was afraid to touch them. Afraid they'd disappear if I looked too closely. Afraid this was all some elaborate dream. On the 4th day, Patricia Chen called. You need to come to the office, she said. There's a lot to learn. The Rose Textile Holdings headquarters was a 3-story building downtown. Red brick. Original windows. The kind of building that has character, that has history, that has seen things. Grandma Rose had bought it in 1987, when everyone told her the neighborhood was dying. When everyone said she was crazy, the neighborhood came back. She was right. She was always right. I walked through the front door that first day. The receptionist looked up, then did a double take. She'd probably seen me at company events over the years. The quiet granddaughter, the one who never talked much, the one nobody expected. Miss Hayes, she said, then corrected herself. Miss Bennett. Your grandmother's office is on the 3rd floor. It's been preserved. She wanted you to use it. The elevator was old-fashioned. Metal cage doors that folded. A brass plate with the floor numbers. I pressed 3 and watched the building rise past me. Her office was exactly what I expected. And nothing like what I expected. Modest. Functional. A desk that was probably older than me. A chair that had seen better decades. But the view was everything. The whole city spread out below. The factory in the distance. The warehouse district she'd helped revitalize. The skyline she'd watched grow. On the desk was a note. Her handwriting, shaky but legible. Naomi, you're ready. You just don't know it yet. Trust the people who stayed. Question the people who return. And never apologize for being loud. I love you. Grandma Rose. I sat in her chair, cried for an hour, then got to work. Patricia Chen walked me through everything. The subsidiaries, the real estate holdings, the investment portfolio, the manufacturing contracts, the decades of history, the relationships to maintain, the decisions to make. Grandma Rose had built an empire, quietly, methodically, without anyone in the family really understanding, without anyone giving her credit, without anyone knowing what she'd created. She kept it separate on purpose, Patricia told me. Didn't want Richard's influence anywhere near it. Didn't want Victoria treating it like a shopping fund. She was waiting for the right moment. The right person. 23 years of waiting. Your grandmother is patient. And she's strategic. You're a lot like her, actually. I spent the first month learning, meeting with department heads, reviewing financials, understanding what I'd inherited, asking questions, taking notes, admitting what I didn't know. Some of the managers tested me, threw jargon at me to see if I'd pretend to understand. I didn't pretend. I said, explain that to me like I'm new, because I was new. Some of them respected that. Some of them didn't. The ones who didn't are gone now. The CFO, Margaret, had been with Grandma Rose for 30 years. She'd seen everything. Watched the company grow from 20 employees to 200. Watched Grandma Rose fight off 2 hostile takeover attempts. Margaret took me under her wing. Not because she had to. Because she wanted to. Your grandmother talked about you, she told me one afternoon. For years. Said you were the one who got it. The one who understood what building meant. I asked her what Grandma Rose had been like as a young woman. She laughed. Terrifying. In the best way. She'd walk into a room full of men who didn't want her there. And by the end of the meeting, they were asking her permission to speak. I wanted to be like that. I'm still working on it. The factory floor was massive. 3 buildings connected by covered walkways. Rows of machines humming in sequence. Hundreds of workers moving with practiced precision. The smell of fabric and machine oil. The sound of industry. The weight of responsibility. I walked through every department. Cutting. Sewing. Finishing. Quality control. Shipping. I introduced myself to every supervisor. Asked questions. Listened. Took notes. Let them see that I cared. Let them see that I was learning. Let them see that I wasn't going to sell the company. That was their biggest fear. That the new owner would cash out, close the factory, move everything overseas. I'm not selling. I told them at the first all-hands meeting, This is my grandmother's legacy. And now it's my responsibility. I'm going to learn this business. I'm going to run it. And I'm going to make sure everyone here still has a job next year. And the year after that, the applause was tentative at first. Then it grew, not because they believed me yet, but because they wanted to. The second month, I started making changes. Small ones, testing ideas, seeing what worked, learning from what didn't. By month 3, I was actually running things. Not perfectly, but competently. The business degree I'd fought for was finally being used. The failures I'd experienced were finally paying off. I knew what didn't work, and that was valuable. Dad tried once more. Showed up at my new office, the one I'd set up in Grandma Rose's building. The same building where she'd started with a sewing machine. We need to talk about the family's interests. Your interests, you mean. The company affects all of us. No, Dad. It affects me. I own 100%. You own 0. That's how ownership works. Rose wasn't in her right mind. I've spoken to lawyers. So has Patricia. She's very good. And she has 23 years of documentation showing that Grandma Rose knew exactly what she was doing and why. His face went red. The familiar purple creeping in. You think you're clever. You've always thought you were so clever. But you'll fail. Just like you always do. Maybe. But I'll fail forward. And I'll learn. And I'll get back up. That's what searching means, Dad. It means you haven't stopped trying. I stood up, walked to my office door, opened it. You can leave now. I have a company to run. He left. Hasn't been back. That was 8 months ago. Grandma Rose passed away 4 months later. Peacefully. In her sleep. In the house she'd built her empire from. The last few weeks, I'd visited every day, sat by her bed, read her the newspaper, told her about the company, about the decisions I was making, about the challenges I was facing. Some days she was sharp enough to give advice, sharp enough to tell me I was overthinking something, sharp enough to laugh at my mistakes. Other days, she drifted, called me by my mother's name, talked about people who'd been dead for decades, lived in a world I couldn't follow her into. The night she died, I was there, had been there for 12 hours, just sitting, just being present, just holding her hand. Her breathing had gotten slower, shallower, the spaces between breaths getting longer until one breath didn't lead to another. I sat with her for an hour after, just the two of us, the way it had always been, her seeing me when no one else did, me holding on when I had nothing else. The hospice nurse finally came in, touched my shoulder gently. She was ready, she said. She told me last week, said she'd done what she needed to do, said you'd be fine now. I wasn't fine, not for a while, but I pretended to be. Because that's what she would have wanted. Because the company needed me. Because falling apart wasn't an option. I'm proud of you, she'd whispered the day before. Her last coherent words to me. Never stop searching. The funeral was small. She'd wanted it that way. No grand ceremony. No performative grief. Just family and close friends. The people who actually knew her. The people she actually loved. The people who'd loved her back. Dad came. Victoria came. Brendan came. They stood on one side of the grave. I stood on the other. After, Victoria approached me. First time since the parking lot. She left me a letter. I waited. She said she loved me. And she was sorry. But that I'd never wanted for anything. And you had, and that meant you understood something I never would. Victoria's eyes were wet. She was right. I've been thinking about it for months. And she was right. Does that change anything? I don't know. Maybe. I'm trying to understand. She hesitated. Brandon and I postponed the wedding. Indefinitely. Why? Because I looked at him after Grandma's announcement, and he was laughing. At you. At me, sister? And I thought, is this who I want? Someone who laughs at failure? Someone who thinks success is just showing up and winning? Someone who only loves winners? She paused. And then I thought about all the times I did the same thing. Laughed at your businesses. Behind your back sometimes. To your face other times. I told myself it was just teasing. Just sibling stuff. But it wasn't. It was cruelty. And I was too comfortable to see it. Victoria. No, let me finish. I've been thinking about this for months. Ever since the party, I keep replaying it. The way Dad pointed at you, the way everyone laughed, the way I checked to make sure Brandon was laughing too. She wiped her eyes. That's who I was. That's who I've been. Someone who checks to make sure the powerful people are comfortable. Even if it means stepping on the people I should be protecting. You were surviving the same house I was. No, I was thriving. That's different. I was thriving because Dad approved of me. And I was so desperate to keep that approval, so desperate to be the favorite, that I never asked why you weren't. She looked at me, really looked. For the first time in years, I don't know what success is anymore, but I don't think it's what Dad taught us. I don't think it's about being chosen. I think it might be about choosing. Choosing to try. Choosing to risk. Choosing to stand up for people, even when it's uncomfortable. I took her hand. First time in years. Her fingers were cold, trembling slightly. Maybe we can figure it out together. I'd like that. If you'll let me. I'm willing to try, I said. That's all I know how to do. The company is thriving now. 14 months since the party. We've expanded into 2 new markets. Sustainable fabrics, medical textiles. Areas Grandma Rose had been researching but never got to implement. We've hired 36 new employees. Some from bigger companies who wanted to work somewhere smaller. Some right out of school who reminded me of myself. Hungry, eager, willing to fail. Revenue is up 17%. Our profit margins are the highest they've been in 10 years. Not because I'm brilliant, but because I listen. Because I ask questions. Because I admitted what I didn't know and let the experts teach me. The failures still come. They always will. That's the price of trying. Just last month, a product launch flopped. Bad timing. Wrong market. A new fabric we thought would revolutionize athletic wear. It didn't. The material was right. The marketing was wrong. We lost about $400,000. Dad would have called it proof. Proof that I was still searching. Still failing. Still not good enough. I called an all-hands meeting the next day. Stood in front of 200 people. Some of them had been here longer than I'd been alive. Some of them still wondered if I knew what I was doing. All of them were watching, waiting to see who I really was. I made a mistake. The product wasn't ready, and I pushed too fast. I got excited about the technology. I ignored the market research. I thought I knew better than the data. That's on me. Completely on me. I paused. Let them see that I meant it. Then I told them what we learned. What we'd do differently. How we'd move forward. What the mistake taught us about ourselves. About our process. About what we still need to learn. Afterward, my CFO Margaret said something that stuck with me. We were walking back to the office together. The factory humming around us. Your grandmother used to do the same thing. Own her failures publicly. Learn from them loudly. Refuse to hide behind excuses. It's why people trusted her. It's why they're starting to trust you. I hope she can see this. Wherever she is, I hope she knows I'm trying to live up to what she built. Victoria and I have dinner once a month now. Awkward at first. Getting easier. We're not where we were. We'll never be where we were. But we're building something new. Something that belongs to us. Not something Dad designed. Dad and I don't speak. I don't know if we ever will. Some bridges burn for a reason, and some people light the match themselves. At my desk, I keep one thing from Grandma Rose's house. A small wooden frame. Inside is a photo of a sewing machine, the one she started with. Beneath it, in her handwriting, "The searching never stops." That's what makes it worth doing. I look at it every day. When things go wrong, when things go right, when I'm not sure which direction is forward, I think about what it means to search, to keep trying, to fail and still get up. My father saw it as weakness. My grandmother saw it as strength. She was right. So if you're out there listening, if someone is telling you that you're not enough, that you'll never succeed, that you should just give up and settle, don't believe them. The people who never search don't understand searching. The people who never fail don't understand failure. And the people who never build don't understand what it costs. My grandmother built $47 million from a sewing machine. I failed 3 times before I was 30. My father never built anything. Guess who was right about what matters? The searching one. Always the searching one. If you're still searching, that means you haven't given up. And if you haven't given up, you're exactly where you need to be. Keep going. Someone sees you. Someone is watching. Someone is waiting to tell you that you were enough all along. Maybe they're already in your life. Maybe you just haven't heard them yet. But they're there. I promise you, they're there. I finished reviewing the quarterly reports around 7 that evening. The numbers were good. Not perfect, but good. Progress. I turned off my office light. Walked past Grandma Rose's old sewing machine. She'd had it moved here before she died. Said it belonged in the building it built. The security guard nodded as I left. "Good night, Miss Hayes." I stopped. Smiled. "Actually, it's Miss Bennett now. I changed it last month. My mother's maiden name." He nodded again. "Good night, Miss Bennett." That felt right. Bennett. The name of women who build things. The name of women who search. I walked to my car. Still avsändande. A newer one now, but nothing flashy. I drove home thinking about tomorrow. Another day. Another chance to fail. Another chance to learn. That's the life I chose. The life Grandma Rose gave me permission to live. The searching never stops. And I wouldn't have it any other way.